Everyone thinks they already know what's frightening about a black hole. It crushes you. It's a bottomless pit, a mouth at the end of the world, the thing that eats even light. And all of that is true enough. But I've decided it isn't the frightening part, not the real one, not the one that's kept me up since you first breathed a word of it. Somewhere out there, wrapped around one of these things, floating in perfectly ordinary empty space. No wall, no shimmer, no mouth, nothing whatsoever to see or touch. There is a line. And the instant you drift across that line, something happens that has never once happened to you in your whole life. Not that you die, that you run out of directions. Every way you could ever point, every future you could ever choose, every road home, all of them, suddenly, quietly, lead the same way. Inward. So that's what I've come down for tonight, not the crushing, the line. Tell me what the line is.
The line. Yes. You've walked straight past the crushing and laid your finger on the one thing that ought to keep the whole world up at night, and almost nobody notices it's there. But before I can tell you what the line is, I have to take you back a night, because you and I have already met it, you and I, and neither of us knew its face at the time.
Have we now? I'd have thought I'd remember an introduction to the single most frightening line in all creation. That's not the sort of thing a person forgets over supper.
You'd think so. And yet you shook its hand and walked off none the wiser. Cast your mind back to where we left off last time. What was the thing we built together, right at the end?
We had the geometry around a star, the whole curved shape of space and time that a heavy round thing carves out of the world just by sitting there. And it earned its keep 3 times over that shape. It fixed the little wobble in Mercury's orbit that had haunted everyone for an age. It bent the starlight going past the sun by twice what anybody had dared to guess, and it slowed the very clocks down wherever the gravity ran deep.
All 3, and each one a triumph. And then, right at the death of the evening, I turned mischievous on you. I always do. And I told you the beautiful shape had a flaw hidden in it. One rotten spot.
You did, and you looked far too pleased about it. A place where the arithmetic screamed, you said. A particular distance in from the middle of the thing, a radius, where the tidy, well-behaved solution stopped being tidy at all, and the numbers picked up their skirts and ran off to infinity, as though the whole careful description had simply torn straight through the paper.
And I told you what the great man himself made of that tear. What Einstein thought of his own screaming radius.
You said he waved it clean off. A mathematical ghost was the phrase. I've been carrying it about all week, a smudge on the page that could never trouble anything real, because to reach that radius you'd have to squeeze an entire star down to something perfectly absurd. Cram all of it, every last scrap, inside that one little screaming circle, and surely, nothing in the whole wide sky was ever that dense.
Surely nothing was. That was the comfort of it, and it held for a good long while, and it let a great many clever people sleep soundly. But there's a trouble with the sentence, surely nothing is ever that dense, and it's this. The universe has a nasty habit of taking a remark like that as a personal challenge.
So something is that dense. You're about to tell me the sky went and did the absurd thing on purpose.
The sky did the absurd thing, and I'll tell you the plain way of it, because you'll want to hold the how in your hands. A star, its whole long life, is a war between 2 enemies. Its own enormous weight, forever trying to crush it down toward its middle, and the fire roaring in its heart, forever shoving back out against the squeeze. For the better part of forever, the 2 are matched, dead even, and the star just sits there, burning, at peace with itself.
But a fire needs feeding, and I can hear in your voice that the feeding stops.
The feeding stops. The fuel runs out, the way all fuel runs out. And on the day the fire finally gutters and dies, The shoving back dies with it. And now there is nothing at all left in the world to answer the weight.
So the weight just wins. After all that time, it finally wins.
It wins all at once. A heavy enough star on that last day simply falls in on top of itself. Its own weight finishing, in a heartbeat, the job the fire had staved off for 10,000 ages. And if the star was heavy enough to begin with, then here is the terrible part. There is nothing in all of nature strong enough to catch it on the way down. Nothing at all.
Nothing catches it? Not the stuff it's made of. Not the sheer material of the thing, all jammed together, shoulder to shoulder. Surely that puts its foot down at some point and says, "Here, no further."
Every prop nature can shove underneath a collapsing star gives way, one after another, like floors in a burning house, and the fall simply continues. Down and straight through its own screaming radius, and it does not stop there, and it does not stop at all.
And the moment it falls inside that radius, inside the ghost circle, the ghost stops being a ghost.
The moment the star's own surface drops inside that circle, the smudge on the page becomes a place. A real edge, hung in real and empty space that you could point a ship at and go and fall through. The ghost grows a body, and that body is your line.
So the flaw in the solution and the line I'm frightened of are one and the same object. The screaming radius, made real.
One and the same. We only give the whole business a different name now. A plain, black little name somebody handed it long after, that stuck to it the way tar sticks to a boot. A black hole. And the line drawn round it has a name of its own. A good one. And I'll put it in your hand the moment you've earned it. For tonight, so far, a hole, and a line about it.
Right, well, before we get poetic about lines, let me lodge the obvious complaint, because I've been holding it since the door and it's gone warm in my pocket. A black hole is a monster that reaches out and grabs. It sucks. That is the whole entire point of the thing. You drift anywhere near it and it hauls you in, kicking and screaming, from clear across the heavens. That's what everyone knows.
And that is the very first picture I have to gently take away from you. Because it's wrong. And it's wrong in a way that matters more than any other mistake you could make in this whole room tonight.
Take it then, prize it out of my hands. But I'll tell you now, I'm fond of that picture, and I shan't hand it over without a fight.
Then fight me on this. Imagine that tomorrow, by some quiet miracle in the night, somebody swapped out the sun, reached up, took our good sun clean away, and set in the very same spot a black hole of exactly the same weight. The same heft, ounce for ounce, not a feather's difference. Now, what happens to the Earth?
We get dragged straight down its throat is what happens. That's the whole...
Nothing happens to the Earth. Nothing at all. It carries on tracing the very same circle it's tracing this very minute, at the very same easy pace, not one hair out of its place. It would not so much as shiver.
No, that can't be right. You've just set the most ravenous object in all creation down where the sun used to be, and you're telling me the Earth doesn't even flinch. It just keeps waltzing round it as if nothing on Earth had changed.
It keeps waltzing because gravity, out here at the polite distance we keep, has only ever cared about a single number, and that number is how much weight is sitting in the middle. Not how it's arranged, not how cleverly it's folded up, not how savagely it's squeezed. Only how heavy.
So the same weight pulls the same pull, whether it's spread out fat and bright as the sun or crushed down to a black speck.
The same weight, the same pull, to the last faint whisper of it. Oh, the sky would go black as pitch, and the whole world would freeze hard as iron without its sunlight. That part is real and grim, and I'll not pretend otherwise. But we would not be hauled off anywhere. A black hole does not reach out and pull one bit harder than its plain weight allows. From far away, it is only its weight, and nothing more than that.
Well, that rather takes the wind out of the monster. So it isn't a drain in the bottom of the universe at all. From a distance, it's just a very dark, very heavy, perfectly ordinary sort of thing.
A perfectly ordinary lump of gravity, seen from far off. One you could circle round for 1,000 quiet years, exactly the way the Earth circles the Sun, and come to no harm whatever. Set a planet far enough out, and it would never even learn that its star had died and gone black beneath it. It would just go on orbiting, faithful as you like, round a coal-black nothing in the dark.
Then where, in the name of all that's holy, does the horror actually begin? Because something has to get worse somewhere, or you've no line left to frighten me with. And you did promise me a line.
Now you've asked the one right question of the night. The danger of a black hole was never the pull from far off. That's only its weight, honest as any stars. The danger is a wholly local thing. It's a thing you have to go and find. You have to travel in and in and in, right down to where the squeezing has wound the curvature up savage and tight.
And with a normal, decent star, I could never get down that close in the first place.
You could never get within a mile of that close. A normal star's surface stops you cold, long and long before you'd ever reach the savage part. You'd be standing on it, or burning up above it, ages too soon. That is the one thing, the only thing, that a black hole truly changes. And it's everything. It took its own surface away. It fell straight past it. So now there is nothing left standing between you and that deep, close-in, screaming curvature. Nothing to land on. Nothing at all to break the fall.
So the star has, in a manner of speaking, gotten out of its own way.
The star has gotten out of its own way. Beautifully said, keep it. And that, exactly that, is what lets your line exist at all. So, shall we go and build the line together? And I mean to build it the old, honest, wrong but useful schoolboy way first, because the wrong way lands us on precisely the right doorstep. Picture it. You've thrown a ball straight up into the air.
I have. And it comes back down and clonks me square on the head, as a general rule.
It comes back and clonks you because you didn't throw it hard enough. That's the whole of why. Throw it a touch harder, it climbs a touch higher before it turns for home. Harder still, higher still. And there is one particular speed, one magic pace where, throw it that fast, it never turns for home at all. It climbs and slows and climbs and slows, but it runs clean out of coming back before it ever runs out of up. It leaves, it's gone. Gone for good.
And that magic pace has a name, I'll wager. Everything with a whiff of destiny about it always has a name.
A homely old one, this. The escape speed. The very least you'd have to fling a stone so that gravity never ever wins it back.
And that speed depends on what I'm flinging the stone off of. Off some little pebble of a world easy as breathing. Off the great Earth, hard. Off the sun, harder yet.
And, here is the hinge the whole night swings upon, fling a stone off something small and dreadfully, dreadfully heavy, and it's harder than anything in the sky. Because the escape speed climbs when the weight climbs, and it climbs, too, the closer in you stand. So take your heavy thing and squeeze it smaller.
And squeezing it lets me stand closer to the middle than ever I could before, because you've told me the surface has moved out of my way.
Just exactly so. And the nearer to the middle you stand, the more ferocious the speed you'd need to get yourself back out. So squeeze it more, stand nearer still, fiercer still, and keep on squeezing.
And at some point the escape speed I'd need becomes, oh, I see precisely where you're marching me, and I don't like it one bit. It becomes the speed of light.
It becomes the speed of light itself. At one particular distance in your screaming radius, your line, The very least speed you'd need to fling a thing so it never falls back equals the full speed of light. And now sit and hear what that innocent little sentence is quietly threatening to do to you.
That to get away from that line, you'd have to move at the speed of light. And you spent an entire other course, weeks of my life, hammering it into me that nothing gets to do that. Nothing with any weight to it at all, flung by anyone, by any means, ever.
Nothing outruns light. That was the iron wall of the whole special relativity story. The one speed no ship, no stone, no runner, no signal in all of creation is ever permitted to reach, let alone to beat. So here, now, sits a line where the price of leaving is a speed the universe has flatly forbidden. And there, near enough, is your point of no return.
Near enough? You're hedging on me. I heard it. There's a hedge in that near enough, and I want it pulled up by the roots.
I am hedging, and you're too sharp to let me get away with it, so I'll confess the hedge before you catch me at it. The schoolboy version has a small fib tucked down inside it. Escape speed is really a story about a thrown stone, a stone with no engine of its own. Flung once, hard, and then left to coast, with nothing but gravity to argue against it the whole way up.
Ah, but I'm not a thrown stone, am I? I'm a person, and I've got a rocket. I don't have to fling myself away and then coast on my luck. I can climb out slowly, patiently, on the engine, taking my own sweet time about the whole affair.
And there is the loophole, exactly. And it's a real loophole, right up until the moment it isn't. Out beyond that line, a rocket that keeps its engine steadily lit can always climb out. It needn't reach the escape speed at all. It can crawl up the hill on brute thrust alone, slow as a snail if it pleases, so long as it's willing to burn the fuel to do it. The escape speed was only ever the price for a coward who wants to cut the engine off and coast home free.
So the line isn't really a line at all then. It's just a spot where the cowards get stuck and the brave sail out anyway, engines roaring. Well, that's far less frightening. I feel a little cheated if I'm honest with you. You promised me a wall and you've given me a toll booth.
Don't feel cheated just yet. Because keep on squeezing, keep going in, and the thrust that same brave rocket needs merely to hold its ground, just to keep from falling one more inch, climbs and climbs and climbs. And right at the line itself, it climbs up to something no engine that was ever dreamed of could give.
How much thrust to just hang there then? Just to hover at the line and go nowhere at all.
To hover at the very line, you would have to be moving at the speed of light. Which is to say, you simply cannot. Not by any means. And a single hair inside it, and this is the part that finally slams the loophole shut and bolts it. Inside the line, holding still isn't even on the menu anymore. There is no amount of thrust, no engine any mind could ever conjure that lets you so much as stay where you are.
So the brave rocket and the cowardly coasting stone come in the end to precisely the same end.
To precisely the same end. Nothing leaves. Not the boldest ship ever built. Not the fastest stone ever flung. Not a beam of light itself.
Not even light, the one thing that was ever allowed to run at the top speed, the very thing whose speed built the forbidden wall in the first place, even light can't climb its own wall and get out.
Even light. Stand just inside that line, point a torch straight up, aim the beam dead away from the middle with every bit of will you've got in you, and the beam still falls inward. The fastest thing there is, pointed square at the only exit there is, and it goes down.
That's the one that turns my stomach. Not that I fall in, that the light falls in with me.
And that right there, is the honest definition of your line, and it's a cleaner thing by far than all the escape speed bookkeeping. So set the speeds down for a moment. Here it is, plain as I can lay it. The line is the last place from which light can still get away. Step across it, and no path that leads on into the future. No path that anything real is even allowed to take points outward anymore. The exits don't get steeper. They stop existing.
And this line, this last final edge, that's the name you've been dangling in front of me all night.
That's the name. That last edge, the final place from which a signal can still climb up and out to the rest of the watching universe. We call it the event horizon.
The event horizon. But why horizon? A horizon is only ever the edge of what I can see. It's the line the ships go sailing over and vanish clean away.
And that is precisely the right instinct. Hold on to it tight. A horizon out at sea is the edge of your seeing, and no more than that. A ship sails past it, and you lose her. But nothing whatever happened to the ship. She sailed on in perfectly fine weather, over a line that was only ever a line to you, standing on your shore.
So this horizon is a line only to the poor souls left standing behind on the beach.
Only to them. It's the edge of what can ever reach you again. Anything that crosses it is lost to you forever. No light, no letter, no whisper of a signal will ever once climb back over that line to tell you how it fared out there. And yet, and hold this close, because it is the whole beating heart of the entire evening, nothing whatever happened to the thing that crossed. The line is a line only to us. Out here, watching and waiting and never getting a word back.
No, that one I refuse outright. You're standing there telling me there's a boundary in space, so utterly, terminally absolute, that crossing it means you can never, by any means known or dreamt, come home, or send so much as a whisper back. The single most violent frontier in the whole universe. And in the same breath, you're telling me that if I am the one doing the crossing, I feel nothing? No wall, no shudder, no great cosmic turnstile going clunk shut at my back.
Nothing. No wall. No shudder. No clunk. Not so much as a click. For a big enough hole, you could cross the single most important boundary of your entire existence and not have the faintest idea in the world that you'd done it.
That's absurd on the very face of it. The most decisive, most final thing that will ever happen to me. The exact instant every future I own is quietly picked from my pocket, and I don't even get so much as a notification.
You don't even get a notification. And I know how mad it sounds, so let me earn it, honestly. Because the truth is, you already own the reason. You've owned it since the very first night. It was the first thing you and I ever learned together, weeks ago, at the start of all of this. Einstein's happiest thought. Tell me, what was it?
That a person in free fall feels no gravity at all. You step off the diving board and for one whole glorious second, the pull just lets go of you, vanishes. You float. Falling feels like nothing, like drifting, weightless and untroubled, in the deep black between the stars. The happiest thought of the man's whole life, you called it.
Falling feels like nothing. Now, the thing crossing the event horizon is doing exactly one thing in all the world. It is falling. Freely, quietly, weightlessly falling. The very way you fell off that board. The very way you'd float out between the stars. And falling feels like nothing.
It felt like nothing a good mile above the line.
It felt like nothing a mile above. It feels like nothing a mile below. And at the crossing itself, the great, silent confiscation of every one of your tomorrows, it feels precisely and exactly like nothing at all. Because the horizon is not a thing sitting there in space. It isn't built of anything. There's no substance in it to strike, no skin of it to break. It's only the name of a boundary drawn in the geometry, and geometry, whatever else it does not leave a bruise.
But the geometry right there must be doing something wild, surely. It's the very lip of a black hole, for pity's sake. The curvature must be screaming its lungs out at that spot.
And here is where we cash in the other old lesson. The one about the ant. Do you remember him? Curvature is a thing you can only ever feel by comparing across a good stretch of space. Take a small enough patch of any curved surface at all, and it looks flat. The ant, trundling across his little patch of the great round earth, would swear on his ant's life the ground beneath him was a level plain.
And space-time plays exactly the same trick. Any small enough scrap of it looks flat and dull and ordinary from the inside, no matter how wildly the whole grand thing is bending itself out of shape.
No matter how wildly. And for one of the truly enormous holes, the giants, the ones that squat in the very hearts of the galaxies, weighing as much as 1 billion suns all at once, the horizon is so vast and so gently rounded that the small patch of it you happen to cross is, to you, no different at all from a scrap of empty flat space. You drift over a line no thicker than an idea, with nothing to see and nothing to feel, and every last instrument you carried would read you back the very same word. Calm. All calm. Nothing here.
And that is so much worse than the vacuum cleaner. Genuinely, properly worse. A monster that grabs you screaming, that I can be afraid of in a plain, honest, human sort of way. But a line in the empty dark, with nothing there at all, that you slide across in perfect serenity, thinking all is well, feeling the same gentle fall as the moment before, and it has already, silently, taken every road home you ever had. That is a colder thing altogether. That's the cold of not being warned.
The cold of not being warned. That's it exactly, and you've said it better than I could. There's no last chance offered, because there was never so much as a sign that a chance was passing. You don't feel the door swing shut. You feel the same soft falling you felt a moment before, and a moment before that, on and on. The universe does not do you the small courtesy of a bump.
All right, let me steady myself and come at this from the outside instead, because I think there's a piece here I've actually got, and I would dearly love the small comfort of being right about one single thing tonight. If my poor friend falls in, sails serenely over the line, none the wiser, whistling to himself, then I, watching safe and snug from my ship far off, at least get to see the grim show. I watch him fall and speed up and plunge over the edge and wink clean out. Yes? At the very least I get to see it happen.
You get to see something, but it is not that. It is one of the strangest sights in the whole of physics, and it runs very nearly opposite to what you just described. You will never once see him cross.
Never see him. He falls in right there in front of my eyes and I never see him go in.
Never. And to understand what you do see, you'll need the very thing you taught me. 2 courses back, and again this one over. That a clock down deep in gravity runs slow, and that light, climbing up out of gravity, gets tired and reddens on the long way up.
The redshift. Light loses its pitch climbing out of a well, and the deeper down the well it starts, the more of its pitch it leaves behind on the climb.
And your friend is falling now toward a well of gravity so deep it is almost past the speaking of. As he nears the horizon, his clock, as you read it up there in your safe ship, runs slow, then slower, and the nearer to the line he creeps, the more savagely time itself is stretched out thin between the two of you, until, at the very line, it's stretched without any limit left at all.
So from up here he looks like he's slowing down, falling in a kind of slow motion.
In a slow motion that keeps on getting slower. His fall stretches and drags and thins away toward a crawl. He reaches out for the line and never quite lays a finger on it. The last inch of the fall takes longer and longer and longer yet, forever, without any end to it.
And the light of him, the actual look of the man.
Every wave of light struggling up out of that well loses a little more of its pitch on the climb, reddens exactly the way you swore to me all light reddens climbing up out of gravity. Only here the reddening runs away with itself entirely. His colour slides from bright to red to a deep and sullen red, to the colours below red that no eye was ever built to catch, to a slow, low radio hum, and down at last to nothing your very finest instrument could ever hope to hear.
So he doesn't wink out, he fades.
He fades, and he freezes, both at the very same time. The picture of him dims away toward black, and stalls there at the very edge, hanging, reddened into darkness, forever reaching for a line he is forever just about to cross.
For how long, though? How long do I have to sit there and watch him hang at the edge like that?
Forever. You could sit in your ship and keep the watch for the whole remaining age of the universe, right down to its last cold ember, and you would never once see him go in. To you he is pinned there against the horizon, like a photograph left too long out in the sun, dimming, stilling, never ever turning the last page.
Then are they... This is the thing I simply cannot hold in my two hands at once. Are they still there? Frozen at the edge, all of them, all this time? Or is that only the picture, and the person's long since somewhere else?
Only the picture. That's the deepest cruelty in the whole of it. He himself crossed long, long ago. In his own time, remember, the fall took no time at all worth mentioning. A few small ticks of his own watch, and he was through the line and gone into the dark. What hangs at the edge, reddening, stilling, is only the very last light he ever managed to send you. Crawling up out of the well, stretched thinner and dimmer with every year that it climbs.
So I'm keeping a vigil over a ghost. An old reddening photograph of a man who left ages ago.
An ancient photograph of someone long, long gone. And mind, both of these are true at once. The frozen, fading picture you keep your watch over, and the calm, quick crossing he actually felt. Neither one is a trick of the eye. Neither is the real one and the other the shadow. They are simply what the one same event looks like, seen from two places in a space-time that's been bent that far out of true. Up here, an eternity of watching a man never quite arrive. Down there, one single heartbeat and clean through.
I want to argue with that, and I can't find the seam to get my nail under. It's the old relativity poison, isn't it? Two perfectly honest witnesses. Two stories that will never once be made to agree, and not a single liar standing between them. Only now the disagreement isn't a couple of clocks running a hair apart, it's forever, set against an instant.
Forever against an instant, over the one same crossing. That's the horizon's very cruelest trick, and it is a true one, right down to the bone. But now I have to take you where the light itself won't follow. And I can only carry you there in words, because no eye out here will ever bring back a picture of it. I have to take you inside, past the line.
Then take me in. I've come this far fooling, haven't I? I may as well go and fool the rest of the way.
Out here, where you and I sit comfortable in our chairs, you enjoy a freedom so total, so utterly complete, that you have never once in your life thought to thank a soul for it. You can move whichever way you please through space. Left, right, toward the window there, away from it again. All of space is yours to wander in, and better yet, yours to change your mind about halfway.
I'll grant I've never once sent up thanks for it. No, go on.
But there is one direction, one alone, that you cannot argue with. Not by any means ever devised, nor any that ever will be. You cannot stop yourself moving forward through time. Tomorrow is coming for you. You may do a great many things about how you choose to spend the hours between here and there, but you cannot turn about on your heel and march back into yesterday, and you cannot plant your 2 feet and forbid the next moment to arrive.
The one direction with no steering wheel bolted on, fine. I've long since made my grudging peace with tomorrow.
Now think about the little fan of directions you're allowed to head off in next. Every way you might go, through space and through time both at once, always kept narrower than the speed of light, because nothing, we said, outruns light. Out here, far and safe from the hole, that fan of yours points every which way you like. You are free as a bird.
And down near the hole? Let me guess, the fan starts misbehaving.
Fall closer, and the whole fan begins to tip. To lean. Inward, toward the middle. And the nearer you fall, the further over it tips. And right at the horizon, that fan has tipped so far, leaned so hard, that even its very outermost edge, the path a beam of light would take, the fastest heading there is anywhere, no longer points outward at all. At the line, the utmost that light itself can manage is to run in place, forever, along the edge, getting nowhere.
And one single step further in, past the edge?
One step further in, and the whole fan, the light and all of it, every heading you're permitted to so much as consider, has tipped clean past the line and points straight down the throat of the thing. And here is what that does to you. Here is the whole reveal. Inside the horizon, the direction toward the middle stops being a direction in space, a way you could point or turn from or fire a rocket against, and it becomes a direction in time. It becomes your new toward tomorrow. Forced, one way, as flatly unarguable as the arrival of the next moment is for you, right now, in that chair.
Wait, say that to me again, and say it slowly, because I think you have just said something enormous, and I want to be dead certain I feel the whole weight of the thing land.
I'll say it as plain as it can be said by anyone. Inside a black hole, the center is not a place, it is a time. It is not sitting out ahead of you somewhere in space, a spot you are rushing toward and might, with cleverness enough and engine enough, contrive to swerve around. It is waiting for you in your future, the way next Tuesday is waiting there in yours. A moment, not a location.
And you cannot steer your way around a moment.
You can no more steer around it than you can steer your way around next Tuesday. There is no heading you could ever pick that means away from the center, for the very same reason that there is no heading anywhere that means away from tomorrow. Tomorrow isn't a place you can turn your back on, and in there, neither is the end.
So that is what I meant right at the very start of the night, and didn't understand that I meant it. Running out of directions. It was never that all the roads happen to bend round toward the middle, it's that the middle stops being aware at all. It quietly turns into a when. And there is no getting yourself out of a when.
There is no getting out of a when. Every road you could possibly take leads there. Not because the roads are bent, but because there is simply your future. And every road that was ever built leads on into the future. That's why the exits don't get harder. There stop being any such things as exits. The very same way there are no exits out of next week.
Then let me try the one last desperate thing, because I'm a stubborn creature and I've got this rocket I keep dragging back into the conversation. I'm inside now. I know the center is coming for me. So I point the engine straight at it and I burn. I fight it. I throw everything I have got into holding that moment off a while longer. Surely, I buy myself something. Surely fighting beats folding my arms and just waiting for it.
Fighting is worse. And this is the detail that undoes people. Good, brave people. Because it is the exact, precise reverse of every last instinct you carry in your body. Do you remember the very strangest thing out of the whole tale of the twins? The traveller who tore off across space and came home younger than the brother who'd stopped at home and stayed put.
I shall never forget it as long as I live. The one who raced away came back the younger of the two. The one who sat still aged the more.
And the lesson buried down underneath it, the one we dug out together. The path with the most time on it, the longest-lived path of all, is never the one that thrashes and turns and burns its engines. It is the straight one, the calm, quiet, unhurried one, the one you fall along doing precisely nothing.
The longest aged path, the straightest one. You made a whole grand fuss of it. That free fall is the straightest possible path there is through curved space-time, and that it's the very path which soaks up the most time of all.
It's the path that soaks up the most time. And in there, past the line, that turns into the darkest little mercy in all of physics. The traveller who crosses the horizon and then simply falls, arms folded, engines gone cold and dark, doing nothing whatever. That is the traveller who lives the longest before the end. Every second of thrust, every frantic burn against the coming moment, every heroic fight to stave it off one heartbeat more, spends your remaining time faster. Thrash, and you only arrive the sooner. Struggle, and you shorten your own last stretch of road with your own 2 hands.
So the calmest traveller in the whole universe
Is the one who lives the longest inside a black hole. It's the twins over again, wearing the very blackest coat they own. The one who coasts, ages most.
That is a terrible thing to be true. It's the one situation in the whole of existence where the right move, the actual survival move, is to do absolutely nothing at all. Fold your 2 hands in your lap and let it come.
The one place in all creation where struggle is the only sin you can commit against yourself. And there's no clever exception hiding behind my back this time, no trapdoor I've been keeping folded up to spring on you and cheer you at the death. I've done that to you before, pulled the floor back up under your feet at the very last second. Not tonight. Inside that horizon, every future you have ends at the same one moment, and the only freedom left you in all the world is how gracefully you spend the little that lies between here and there.
All right, I've stopped fighting the rocket. I've folded my hands. Now let me ask the thing I've been circling all night and dreading, because you've been so gentle, so soothing about the crossing feeling like nothing, that I've started to genuinely wonder where the horror even lives in your version. So far, your black hole is a serene, weightless drift across an invisible line into a quiet, one-way future. Where's the part that tears me limb from limb? I've heard the word for it, the spaghetti word.
The spaghetti word. Yes, it's real, it's grisly, and it is the very last piece of the whole picture. And it is, of all things, the oldest friend in this entire course, come back to us grown into a monster. Cast your mind right back, right to the very thing we first said breaks flat space in 2. 2 apples, dropped side by side, together toward the earth.
They don't fall quite parallel, the 2 of them. They both fall toward the middle of the earth, so they lean, ever so faintly, in toward each other as they go down.
And a tall person, falling, feels a stretch of it. The feet hauled just a touch harder than the head, because the feet are that little bit nearer the middle. The tides. The one single gravitational effect that you can never, ever transform away by falling. The stubborn residue that stays real and stays with you in any falling frame you care to hide yourself in.
The true fingerprint of curvature. That was the whole crux, way back. The leftover we couldn't scrub away, the thing that forced space-time to bend in the first place. And you told me back then that the ocean's own tides are that very same effect at work. The moon hauling the near face of the earth harder than it hauls the far.
The very same piece of arithmetic, sea and falling man alike. Now, take that gentle little stretch, that barely there difference between the pull on your head and the pull on your feet, and carry it inward, down toward the center of the hole where the curvature grows and grows and grows, and the difference grows right along with it.
My feet hauled inward harder than my head, and the gap between the two of them widening the whole way down.
Your feet hauled ever harder than your head, and the two sides of you squeezed together in as they're funneled toward the one same point. Gentle at the first, then not gentle. And then, as you near the center, the stretch grows without any limit left to it at all, drawing you out long and thin into a filament, a thread, stretched out like a single strand of, well, there is your spaghetti word for you, arrived at last. And it's only the old apple's little lean, taken the whole way to its cruel infinity.
So that's the destroyer then, not the crossing at all, the arriving. The tides run stark, raving mad down near the center, drawing me out into a noodle.
The arriving. And here is the twist in it, that very nearly everyone gets precisely backwards. So lean in and listen close, because this one decides your whole fate. How badly you are stretched at the horizon, right at the crossing itself, depends entirely on the size of the hole. And it runs the exact opposite way to your intuition.
Backwards how? I'd have bet the house that the biggest, heaviest monster of them all does the very worst of the stretching.
The small holes are the vicious ones. A hole the weight of a whole dead star, crushed on down into the size of a market town. Its center sits so terribly near its own horizon that the tides right at the line are already ferocious. That kind of hole draws you out into a thread long, long before you ever so much as reach the edge. You're spaghetti while you're still outside it, still watching the line come on. It never once lets you cross the thing whole.
And the giants then? The billion sun monsters, squatting in the hearts of the galaxies.
The giants are, right at the very edge, gentle as a held breath. Their center sits so unthinkably far from their horizon that the difference between the pull on your head and the pull on your feet at the crossing itself is nothing, less than the pull you feel standing flat on the earth this very moment. You would sail across the line of the very largest holes entirely at your ease, whole, calm, unstretched, feeling nothing but that same soft, weightless falling, and only much later, much deeper, far past the line and long, long committed, would the tides finally reach out and find you, and begin, without the slightest hurry in the world, to draw you out.
So the size of the thing flips the whole tail clean on its head. Fall into a small one and you're torn to threads in plain sight, out in the open, before the real mystery has even started. Fall into a vast one and you cross it serenely, feeling nothing at all, into a place from which nothing whatever returns. And you get to keep your own shape for a good long while yet.
Right up until the center, which is not a place, remember, arrives there in your future, like a Tuesday you have not the smallest power to cancel. The small holes kill you with brute force and never once let you past the front door. The great ones let you in like a gentleman, whole and unafraid, and none the wiser. And only then, quietly and forever, do they keep you.
And the thing at the very bottom of it all, the center itself, where you tell me the tides run away to infinity, and the arithmetic screams the loudest of all.
What actually sits at that final moment, down at the very bottom of the when, is a question that will, in the end, take the two of us clean off the edge of everything we think we know. But that's a night for the very end of all our nights. Not for tonight. Tonight I only ever wanted to walk you gently over the line and show you it was empty.
And you have. I came in this evening afraid of a mouth, and I'm walking back up the stairs afraid of a line with nothing there at all, that you cross without so much as a bump, that quietly turns the whole way to the center from a direction into a date. And that is a deeper fear, and a stranger one, and I've a growing feeling it's the truer one. But there's one thing sitting oddly with me now, here at the end of it.
Then out with it. Don't carry it up the stairs.
All night long you've painted this thing as a grave, a one-way door, a sink in the floor of the universe that things pour down and never once come back up out of. And that has the shape of an ending. And you, of all people, you do not, as a rule, ever leave me sitting on an ending.
I don't, do I? And I shan't this time either, because you've gone and caught the very last thing of the night by its tail. A black hole looks, from everything the two of us have said tonight, like a place where the universe only ever loses, where things fall in and the story simply stops. But it turns out these monstrous things are not only sinks, they can also, of all the unlikely verbs to hang on a black hole, they can sing.
Sing. After the evening you've just put me through, you are going to have to hand me a great deal more than the single word sing.
Then take two of them. Two black holes caught fast in each other's gravity, wheeling, circling round and round one another, closer and closer, faster and faster, in a long, slow, spiralling dance that winds itself down and down over the long ages.
Two of the monsters, falling the whole time toward one another.
Two of them falling in toward each other for an age. And at the very, very last, when they finally meet and merge and become one single thing, they strike the fabric of space-time itself, the way a mallet strikes a great bell. And the whole shape of space and time rings with the blow of it. A shudder run right through the fabric itself, spreading outward at the full speed of light, out across the emptiness, out across the galaxies, ringing on and on and on.
The fabric rings. The very thing we've spent this whole long course learning how to bend. You're telling me you can strike it, like a struck bell, and the ringing of it travels.
The ringing travels, and for the better part of 50 years, every living soul was dead certain that ring was far too faint for any hand that would ever live to feel it. A tremor in the shape of space. Yes, real, right there in the equations, plain as day, but hopelessly and forever beneath all noticing.
And then?
And then, one day, from two black holes a full billion light-years off, that had finished their long, long dance and rung the great bell hard, the tremor reached us, here, at home.
It reached us. So the thing that only ever swallows, the grave, the one-way door, the sink in the floor of the world, that very same thing can also, when two of them come together, send a single clear note ringing out clean across the whole universe. And we were here, and we felt it go by. Then that is where I want to go next, more than I have wanted anything at all this whole night. Not into the hole, I have had my fill of the hole, thank you. Toward the bell. I want to know what it does to the likes of us when the fabric of everything shakes, and how in the name of heaven a hand small enough to hold a teacup ever caught the shiver of a thing 1 billion years old and 1 billion light-years gone. I'll be down early, and don't you dare start the ringing without me.